Hello and welcome to the Good Art Friends, where good friends discuss good art. Jonathan, my good friend, how are you doing on this fine October evening?
I'm doing all right. I am grappling with the fact that it is getting darker and colder, and I don't like
Mm.
that.
Oh, I love
But
it. I'm all for it.
I need the sun. If the sun could be up 19 hours a day, I'd be pretty happy about it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll take the seasonal affect disorder just for the cool autumn vibes.
yeah, you
That's a
know what? The
trade I'm
vibes are
willing.
good, especially the North Carolina State Fair is happening now. And
Mm.
the crisp evening nights at the fair is really one of the things that makes fall worth it.
I think we have never disagreed more back and forth than we have at the start of this podcast. I am much too autistic for the state fair. Every part of that is just sensory overload. But
Yeah, but there's
yeah.
really cool bonsai trees. I remember the first time I went to the state fair, I
Ooh.
saw a 40-year-old bonsai tree, right? There is a new record setting largest pumpkin this year that I'm looking forward to seeing. And the garden contests in that area, there is a model train that goes around, and I love that.
Yeah, okay, you are doing a good job. I'm still not gonna go, but that I give you an A for effort in terms of selling it and knowing how to convince me.
Yeah,
You
I
didn't
mean,
convince me, but I applaud the effort.
those are the things that I go to the fair for, to eat the good food, to look at all of the plants, and look
Mm.
at all the agriculture stuff, and smile at the cows.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, what's good this month apart from the fair?
What's good this month is what I talked about at the end of our last episode. I have been perpetually going to hell playing Hades 2.
Mm, okay.
And let me tell you, having the time of my life, right?
Okay.
It is a phenomenal game. There's differences between this game and its predecessor, but it's quite interesting seeing the different narrative, seeing how the Greek gods are portrayed in the sense of they are built on their mythos, but also given an extra personality that exists within the story of the game. But yeah, it's been really fun just watching the world evolve as you continue to go through it
Hmm,
because it is another roguelike game
okay.
where each time that you go, like something, like you progress the story. So it's a
Right.
perpetual, you keep going, you keep playing, you get more of the story over each run. And I have been having a great time.
Now, so rogue life, correct me if I'm off base here, but that means that when you do die, you start really far back. Is that correct?
You start over. So like Hades
Oh,
2, I guess would be in the roguelite vein
okay,
because
okay.
you get currency that you can purchase power-ups for yourself and make you
Gotcha.
stronger within the runs, whereas you get a game like the name is escaping me right now, Risk of Rain. I haven't played the sequel to Risk of Rain because it's in 3D and my inner ears don't like it. So I continue to play the 2D original Risk of Rain where you spawn in, and with you spawn in with nothing, and you go through and you find things, and you die, you start again with nothing.
Hmm. Okay. So here, I have a question. So that's a sequel to a game that's pretty challenging.
Mhm.
Have you also played another sequel to a game that's pretty challenging, which is Silk Song?
I have not. I
Okay.
thought about it. I'm just like, yeah, this game's gonna eat me up. Same with Celeste.
Yeah.
That game ate me up.
Yeah, I played a bit of Hollow Knight. Going back to just the vibes were immaculate. Just the world building, the design, the craft, all of it was incredible. But I'm over 40. I do not have the reflexes for those types of games anymore. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but yeah, that's what's good on my end. What's good for you?
So mine is kind of a callback to actually two previous episodes, or a few
Hmm.
really. Um, a few months back we covered Tiny Bookshop,
Hmm.
and one of the great things about that game is you're selling actual books, like actual titles pop up. And as I was playing, one of the books that you could recommend to people that stop by your shop was Kiki's Delivery Service. And I had no clue, even when we covered it, that was an actual book. I thought it was like a Miyazaki original or something like that. So I added it onto my Libby, which is another like kind of sub What's Good, the Libby app, pulling from the libraries. Wonderful. Highly recommend. And in the last week or so, it popped up. It was available. So I got Kiki's Delivery Service, which was published in 1985, written by Iko Kadono. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that name. And it was just similar to the movie. It was just a delightful little world to inhabit. It's very structurally, it's roughly the same, or I should say thematically, it's pretty much the same as the movie. Like Kiki comes of age, she needs to go and find a town that doesn't have a witch, and she slowly like kind of wins them over. But it's very episodic. It's a breezy read, and each chapter is essentially just one little challenge that Kiki has to overcome. Like, I'll give you an example, one chapter, and because it's so episodic, this isn't spoilers, but I guess jump forward 30 seconds or so if you don't want to hear it. But there's one, for instance, at the town, they're going to do a big concert, and they bring in this like this trope of musicians. They're really haughty, just really full of themselves. But when they got off the train, people neglected to get their instruments off the train. So like, Kiki, help us. This concert's supposed to start, promptly, but their instruments are on an express train going like towns and towns over. Can you get them? So she flies to that train. She gets onto the moving train, and then she's like, okay, how can I get these instruments back? She strings them together on like a rope, kind of like a tail, and then she flies back to the town. Now, as she's arriving at the town, she's flying so hard that the wind is kind of blowing through the instruments and makes this like beautiful orchestral sound, and the town just erupts in applause, thinking that was the concert. And then they all leave, and then the original orchestra is like, what the heck, we were supposed to be the ones that were there. So it's all these little tiny like quirky stories about Kiki gradually winning over the town little by little. And it was equally delightful as the movie, just a different kind of feel. It was lovely. Apparently, this author, she wrote 8 sequels to this, but this is the only one that's been translated to English. So What's Good is Kiki's Delivery Service, the book, and my hope is that someone will translate the future books as well.
I have a question. Is there any illustrations in the book? Because I want to see the music being made as she's flying overhead.
Yeah, there are. It's not like kind of every day, every page kind of thing, but each chapter or so, and there's some beautiful little kind of like doodles above each, prefacing each chapter. But yeah, there is some beautiful art in that as well. The name of the illustrator does escape me. I don't have that in my notes. But yeah, you can read it in an afternoon, but if you enjoy Miyazaki's movies, I think this might have even been my number 1 pick when we did the Miyazaki retrospective, but it's worth a read.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah, that was nice. So this month, I will say we are not talking about Frankenstein. That was our hope because Guillermo del Toro has a version of Frankenstein coming out. It will be out on Netflix on, I want to say, November 7th, and it was released in theaters. Select theaters was the key word there, a couple weeks back, but Raleigh was sadly not one of those theaters. So what are we going to be talking about this month instead? Frankenstein next month, November, that's coming. So I'm reading through Mary Shelley's. I recommend the 1831 edition. So read the book, watch Guillermo del Toro's version, then jump back into our next episode. But Jonathan, what are we covering this month?
You and I last week in real time went to go visit a cat cafe, which was beautiful. And we also got fresh pretzels, which was delicious. And we needed to figure out, what'd you say?
They were quite good. Yeah,
they were very good. And we had to figure out what we were going to do for this episode because Frankenstein was not available. And I remember one of my friends was telling me about how they had a party at one point that was centered around the miniseries Over the Garden Wall. And I'm like, you know what? This sounds like I've been meaning to watch this for years and years and years, because this came out all the way back in 2014, 11 years ago. And it's been on my watch list for so long. And I figured, you know what? Now should be the time, because it's a little spooky. It features these two young half brothers who are traveling through this haunted wood. And it follows them and their story. And I figured, hey, why don't we watch this? Because I just watched the first episode recently, and it was only 10 minutes. And it's a series that is so highly reviewed and recommended. I figured it's finally probably about time that I watch this. So I pitched this, and you agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it's easy left, just 10 episodes. Each one's about 10 minutes a piece, I think. Yeah, sounds interesting. So it came out, looks like 2014 on Cartoon Network, created by Patrick McHale, who apparently worked on Adventure Time. I haven't watched that either. Did you watch Adventure Time?
Great show. And he also did the marvelous, the Misadventures of Flapjack, which I definitely get that vibe from between Flapjack and watching the first episode of Over the Garden Wall.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm going to try with my kids. We just finished a watch through of Gravity Falls, which I would also highly, highly recommend. Anything? Well, I guess you haven't really watched it from the first episode. Anything you want to tell me and both listeners?
It can be like creepy, but it feels safe, right? I think I compared this to you as to kind of like Welcome to Night Vale, which is a series that I adore also. That is the kind of horror that is like up my alley, right? It's weird. It's upsetting, it's off-putting, but it feels very safe. Like you're not in any danger. What's going to happen is going to be like it's Twilight Zone-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be unsettling, but it's not gonna ruin your day, right?
Yeah, and you know that's probably a decent note to leave with the listeners that I look for the same things. I like weird, but you're never probably going to get an episode of the Good Art Friends where we're covering a slasher. No jump scares on the Good Art Friends.
Yeah, we're very cozy oriented here.
Yes. Okay, I'm excited to check this out. Anything else to say before we break? Watch the series, then come back?
I'm having fun looking at the cast right now because I had forgotten that Elijah Wood plays one of the main characters. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. All right. Over the Garden Wall. I think it's... what is it on Googling?
I'm watching on Hulu, I think.
Okay. Yep. So Hulu or Disney Plus. So yeah, 10 episodes, go watch it. We'll do the same. And then we'll come back and jump into some spoilers and our thoughts on this 2014 miniseries.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah. I mean, and one more note I will say is that I think this is coming out of possibly the second golden age of Cartoon Network. Just again, around the time you had Adventure Time and regular show. And yeah, we had great animation, and it's one of those things where you realize it's great while it's happening, and then you miss it when it's gone, like right now.
Yeah, well put. All right, that's a good note to end on. Thanks. Check back in with you soon.
Yep, see ya.
Bye. All right, we are back. And Jonathan, I have some advice for you. It's that you can do anything if you set your mind to it. At least that's what the old people say.
That's very true. And also, this is, in fact, the spoiler half of the podcast, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. We can dive right in.
Yeah, so we in the recording have also gone over the garden wall because we did the first half in a different setting, and now we're back in our familiar setting.
Yes, using Riverside back. We're back where we belong. Yes, but we're changed. come back,
Yes.
change people. Okay, initial thoughts. What do you think?
Oh man, delightful.
Mm,
As we talked about in the first half, like this is my favorite brand of horror.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's unsettling, it's very creepy, but it's
yes.
also very safe, right? Like I never really felt like I was in true danger while I was watching it, but it was also like it did raise the suspense level. Um but yeah, what a moment. The start of episode 9. That's
Mm,
we'll get there, but that's really my fresh impressions of watching this. I had no idea that would happen, and I loved every second of it.
yeah, and to its credit, it was the kind of show that I finished it, and then especially with how episode 9 revealed some stuff, like Greg being an elephant, for instance, most pressing.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I finished the show and I immediately wanted to go rewatch it,
Mhm.
but also just thinking like, okay, I think there's going to be like a Halloween staple year in year out. You
Mhm.
know, um, it's just such a whimsical and poignant show. And I'll say this. So it started, and I tried with my my 6 and my 9-year-old. I was like, let's just try it. And immediately they say, oh, a boy and a boy. But 10 minutes later, they're shouting, let's watch another one. And they were
Mhm.
there for the whole thing, and they were locked in. And and I think that's to its credit that there are shows that can appeal to, a 6 and a 9-year-old. And then there's shows that can appeal to a 41-year-old. But
Mhm.
shows that are able to simultaneously hit both, that's a hard thing to pull off. And this show did it.
Yeah.
The kids loved it. I loved it. It was a wonderful show.
I just want to say that I knew that this was going to work both for me and for you and for the
Mhm.
show within the first 2 minutes of the first episode, where the first things you hear are Albert, Salami, Giggly, Jumpy, Tom, Thomas, Tambourine, Legface McCullen, Artichoke, Penguin, Pete, Steve. But I think the worst name for this frog is, and like that is an incredible open.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Oh, and let's just get into it. I think the most pressing question is, what was the best name for the frog? What's your vote?
Dr. Cucumber.
That's mine too. Okay, absolutely, Dr. Cucumber, but also just that running gag of the different names, including George Washington, the president.
Yes, you done good, Mr. President.
But them then landing that plane on it being Jason Funderburger. And Jason Fun, which the setup, 2 things there. 1, for them to land there, and 2, just going back into that how hard episode 9 hit. Just throughout, you're like, oh, Wirt's nemesis, Jason Funderburker, and it's just such a badass name and all that. And you have this mental picture of what Jason Funderburker looks like, and then when you see and hear him, it's lovely. Both him and the frog.
Was he like playing Ross Perot or what? Like I need to know.
Oh, but that was wonderful. Yeah, but yeah, it was silly and serious, both, and Greg obviously providing the overly silly, we're providing the overly serious, and it just they played off those 2 poles just so beautifully.
Yeah, I love the arc. Also, quickly going over the frog names, it reminded me of a post that I've seen that has floated over the internet forever and ever about how somebody had a roommate who was dating a guy named Nigel, and then there was also a cat named Nigel within the apartment, and they took to calling the person Human Nigel, and he didn't like that.
Yeah, it's like, why isn't it Cat Nigel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
the frog is clearly the primary Jason Thunderberger.
Yeah, oh no, the frog is clearly the primary Wirt also.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I loved the, you got the long arc of the story of brothers from different families pressed together, bonding together. Because, clearly Wirt is operating with Greg, and he refers to him as my half-brother. And then, of course, they bond together at the end after Greg is really the one that truly saves them at the end.
Yeah. Well, yes, primarily. And, so this is it's a portal fantasy. It's a there and back again kind of story. But what's interesting about it is I feel like those stories oftentimes it's you come back fundamentally changed. And oftentimes when you have young adult characters in them, it's this loss of innocence. It's this loss of naivety that comes with it, especially when you go through like the deep, dark woods. There's obviously this playing off of a lot of like Grimm's fairy tales and stuff like that. And kids learn that the world is a dark place. And they do see that the world is a dark place. But Greg doesn't lose his unbridled optimism there. And that's part of what allows him to save Wirt. But also Wirt stands up to the beast directly. And also Beatrice overcomes her shame at selling out the kid. So each of them in their own way become this like little triforce of kind of power there saving him. But yeah, it is beautiful.
Also on this, there was something I was going to say, but it slipped out of my brain. But I'm going to go ahead and slip to this point of, I did love that, as you talk about this being a portal fantasy, but like heavily implied, they actually went over the garden wall and everything there happened.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because, and I've read a lot of interviews with Patrick McHale. One of the things that I respect is he doesn't give any answers about was this purgatory? Were they in some liminal space like near death? Did they actually die? Some of those kind of things. But that allows you to kind of read it in a number of different ways. But yeah, it seems that the key thing to me is that Jason Thunderberger, the primary one, the frog, of course, he's got the bell in his stomach when they come back. So that's it. Without that, I would wonder if it was all in their head or something like that. So that to me either says that no, everything really did happen, or they just straight up died. And all of this, because it ends with these positive, wonderful, could be like this Dante's Inferno. They like went through hell, but they made it to this spot of acceptance in heaven and all those kind of things. Because they only give you good things, like the woodworker, no, that's not. But what's the term for the?
I don't know. I'm just calling him the Axeman.
The Axeman, thank you.
Yeah.
The woodsman, sorry.
Yes.
Like he sees his daughter, but we know that the daughter died. So, for instance, in The Unknown, I think there's some degree of that's the hereafter for them. But then again, Beatrice, it seems like they didn't die. I don't know. I guess this is something that I got to process each time when I watch this.
Yeah, I think for me, it started with the process of the woodsman extinguishing the lamp, and I think that released whatever dark magic had happened.
But that was a bluff. Like that wasn't actually holding his daughter. The beast.
No,
was just
but
saying that it was just
the lamp held the spirit of the beast.
Yes. Okay.
Because at the end, you get Beatrice back with her family and her mom telling her to eat her dirt.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Wirt just accepts like okay, I'll take the dirt. That's what I need to go into it.
Yeah. Gosh, everything that I want to say, it keeps coming to me and leaving me. This is anyway. If we were going to read to it in the way of them being in purgatory, then you also can have the interpretation of Greg in, what was it, episode 8, when he's in the clouds fighting off the northern wind. And he is invited to find out how to go home because he gets his wish, but he can't take his brother. They think that was either he was going to get to pass over or he rejected it and went back.
And that seems to be, I'm kind of processing, grappling in real time, but a recurring kind of theme about you can save yourself or perhaps even your family, but, and this might be a false binary, but you have to sacrifice someone else. And, you see Greg for a second doesn't do that. He's got that innocence that he still holds on to despite stealing the rocks. Whereas, Beatrice sold out kids at first for her family, but then had a chance at redemption and she took it. The woodsman unknowingly was sacrificing kids, so you had to wonder if he knew to some degree. But then once that's kind of pressed in his face, he also seizes the chance at redemption and does the right thing. So there is something there about who protecting ourselves or those closest to us, these concentric circles of are we willing to hurt others to help ourselves or even those closer to ourselves.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about episode structure real quick? 'Cause I have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I really enjoy the fact that this is 10 episodes, 10 minutes each, so 100 minutes, an hour and 40 total of watch time. And I love how each of the episodes really really dangled the danger moment before like the turn, but it's still like the unsettling, creepy turn. My favorite being the Pottstown episode, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And they get to the place and it's just like, oh yeah, obviously like these are costumes, which they weren't lying. They were costumes. And the giant Pumpkin King sentencing them to death. It was like, well, if you had done that, then yeah. But then it's just like, okay, well, everything's okay. They're just gonna go do some hard labor. They're gonna go dig some holes. And they're like, wait, are we digging our own graves?
Yeah.
They weren't digging their graves, but they were digging graves to let out skeletons.
Yeah, and that to me, that was... They play with throughout and early on between that and thinking the dog is the beast, this idea that perception is not reality. You think that the dog is the beast, but he really just needs some like help. And there you think that these creepy pumpkin people are mean them harm. Yeah, I mean, it was quite cultish. But really, no, they also just need something and they're able to kind of help out. And this is when they first start setting up Adelaide as well, which is this red herring throughout. And I like how they kind of play with that as you go through these initial thoughts about what is good and what is bad. It's never quite that simple. And that's fitting in a show about growing up and your innocence, and how are you able to come to understand that without losing the innate goodness that is in a character like Greg,
Right. And speaking of Greg, I think the second episode that really showcases this formula set up for the show, the Auntie Whispers episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where it really absolutely subverts expectations. Also the Dr. Cucumber episode, by the way. But yeah, it really subverts your expectations because it's just like, obviously, the big lady who follows the Studio Ghibli formula.
Absolutely Spirited Away, Miyazaki-esque. 100%.
Yeah, she's the evil lady, stopping the good girl from having a good life, when actually, in her own misguided way, has been keeping the girl sane all the way until Greg, again, steals the bell. And I love the fact that like he's so close to saving the day, and he wishes for a magical tiger.
Or later, and because of his guilt at stealing the rock, when he throws the 2 coins, because I ain't got no sense.
He's such a good character. I love, because I am the little brother in my family, and so it's so fun just watching him exist.
Yeah, and that's a good time. I'm gonna drop. I asked even Indy what they liked about the show, and that kind of sets up. So here, I'm gonna play that clip.
I liked about Over the Garden Wall was the silly Greg songs.
What about you?
I like the plot twist, like that it turns out Adelaide was a villain, and that Wirt's crush didn't have a tape thingy, so she couldn't play the video.
So Indy agrees. Greg was just all the silly Greg things is what she kind of focused on. And I think it'll be great to watch this with her again and again throughout the years to see how that kind of evolves. Whereas Eva was really kind of intrigued with some of those kind of plotting things and the ways in which they did subvert some of the expectations with like Adelaide and all that. But yeah, so you said and what was that? Hard Times at the Huskin Bee. That was your favorite episode?
That was the Pottstown episode then?
Yeah.
Yes, I do think that was it. I think that's just the very perfect microcosm of the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, and it's a really tight one. So something interesting, McHale originally was thinking about this as an 18 episode kind of piece. And so some are a little bit more kind of cohesive than others, and some of them kind of got blended. A good example was, let's see, Lullaby in Frogland, where it starts off with that like steamboat and George Washington becomes sentient and stuff, and then they kind of transition to the kind of second piece there, like was that the one with the I think that was the one with the anti-whispers. But yeah, the Pottstown was pretty solid. Now, I did ask, there's a really thriving subreddit for this. I'll post a link in the show notes. And I asked there what their favorite episode was. And a lot of others did say Hard Times at the Huskin Bee, which was yours. There was a number of votes for Mad Love. And I did want to read out a couple quotes from some of the posts there. Impressive Flow said that they loved Mad Love because it's the first time Wirt discovers that he's not a total pushover and starts to earn Beatrice's respect. I like Wirt trying to argue against stealing, Beatrice pointing out Wirt stole a horse, Wirt saying Fred, being a talking horse, is free to do what he wants, and Fred declares that he wants to steal, which that part was great. Like, no, I'm in for the stealing. And that's where, and then this user also kind of talked about that just as they grow up, you realize these moral complexities, like, is it right to steal in this situation to save your own lives? And from these people that, have, are obscenely wealthy. Like in Mad Love, what was it? Once I only pull up my notes.
That was the one where the two houses grew so absurdly large that they were absolutely
they didn't
almost
even know.
Encompassing each other.
Yeah.
I loved that one.
Yeah, and there's all these quotes like unnecessary excess of wealth and majesty of wealth. So is it moral in order to save others and those that you love to take 2 cents from them? So it started to play with just the growing up is complicated. The other one, which I think we can kind of transition because we want to talk about this, that got a lot of votes was Into the Unknown. And yeah, Real Margiela, I'm probably mispronouncing that, said that, it's so visually striking, composed in an operative structure, apparently Patrick McHale said that was kind of intentional. It's also so satisfying to see the beast confronted and how weak he is without his manipulation of the woodsman when Wirt calls him out as dumb. Like most manipulators, he targets the vulnerable and preys on them, like Greg in his naivety, the woodsman in his grief, and Wirt in his guilt. I thought that was a really kind of striking analysis of that. So do you want to talk about those last 2 episodes, Into the Unknown and then The Unknown, how it kind of wraps up? So yeah, what struck you? You mentioned this early.
Man, I loved when episode 9 started and it was present day. That was one of the biggest trips I've had in watching media for a very long time. And you just get to discover that Wirt is dressed the way that he is because it was a Halloween costume. Not that this was set in some, mid-fantasy realm like you'd get from like Grimm's fairy tales or something like that, and this is just how people commonly dress. No. He's like this because he's a current day person that's trying to win the love of somebody that he likes in high school. Like that, I loved that. And then just the setup to how they got to where they were by going to the party and falling into the river. I ended up watching the beginning of the first episode again because I wanted to get all of the frog names. And I loved just because I was able to watch it after watching, episodes 9 and 10. Episode 9, they go into the river, you get that slow blink. And episode 1 starts with that slow blink. And it's just that's really where they come together.
Yeah, that's stitched there. And it sets it up so nicely in hindsight because Halloween is this time out of time. And really even just the ridiculousness of Greg is completely appropriate. He's a little kid on Halloween. He's supposed to be throwing candy around Hansel and Gretel style. He's supposed to be wearing a ridiculous thing. But it also
stealing things from the old lady who asked him not to call him old lady.
to which he responds,
yes, sir.
Yes, something like that. Sure thing. Young man. Switches from old lady to young man. Beautiful. But also, it that one sets up essentially just the ways in which they could get lost in the unknown, be it literally in terms of like how they could fail to defeat the beast, or figuratively how they can get lost in their adolescence and not become the people that they're supposed to, not get through the other side. Wirt, of course, with his like self-doubt and the tendency to project and lash out at others when he's kind of feeling that way, as he worries about Sarah. But then also just Greg in terms of just his ridiculousness that he has this rich internal life, like in Cloudlands, but he might unknowingly walk off with someone's rock, like if he doesn't root himself to some degree. And I think you see that, going into episode 9 as Greg could just kind of escape into his own world, and as Wirt could cave into his own doubts. But you see them overcome those then as you go from 9 to 10, which I thought was really incredible.
Yeah. A quick note, because I want to make sure I remember to get this in. I love the little opening piano ditty that plays. You want to know what it reminds me of also? And this is going to be like not a hyper local reference, but it's going to be pretty local to us in North Carolina. The Biltmore commercials.
Yeah,
because it's one of those things where it's just like, it's this really comforting piano theme, but it's got this augmented chords in there just to let you know it's like, it's not quite gonna land where you want it to be, but it's not too far off from what you want it to be.
And that's kind of fitting too, in that like okay, when you go to the Biltmore, like, you're not really escaping back into time. You're just deluding yourself that you are. And they're leaning into that with their absurd commercials and all that. And likewise, there's something interesting. Like McHale said, like, each of these vignettes, each of these episodes, it stretches further back in time as they go. So you're seeing Greg and Wirt literally become further removed from home, both in time and space, which I think is kind of cool. So, but, they are still presumably, at least to some degree, still in the river. So they're not really in the like 1700s or something like that. Just like you're not really in the, 1700s when you go to Biltmore. But it is this thin place between realities when you're kind of in both at the same time. And that shows up with the music, but also shows up in like the art style, the animation. Like McHale talked about how he was inspired by some of those early animators in that they weren't playing off of a tradition of previous animators because there wasn't anything to look back on. So they were looking at different kind of art styles and all that. So McHale is kind of playing with it in terms of music and art, but also dialogue, especially some of the like overwrought prose that he gives to Wirt. And all that gives this... You can kind of pinpoint some like Mark Twain-esque like settings, but at the same time, it's impossible to pinpoint, which I think makes it somewhat timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is a great show.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm thinking a bit about just that idea of like nihilism versus optimism as well. And Greg being inspirational to some degree with that optimism. And I think both Wirt and Beatrice being prone to getting pulled into nihilism because of rumination, either on what they did or didn't do, But that's that and the kind of perception and reality, the oversimplified good versus evil, those are kind of circling in my head right now.
Yeah. But it's also, as you talk about it and as we've talked about this, is that they both really, truly needed each other to be the people that they were in the show. Because Greg needed Wirt to, to drive and be like the pragmatic person. And then going back to episode 8, when Wirt is succumbing to the miasma of the forest of the beast, and he tells Greg that he's in charge. Greg's like, "Oh, okay. Well, here's what we're gonna do."
Yeah,
without missing a beat.
Yeah, and he saves them with light, which is fitting. But yeah, I think that's a great point that they both need each other. Yeah, Greg wouldn't have lasted a day in the unknown, just frolicking through, and Lord knows what would have happened. But likewise, Wirt would have just gotten pulled further and further into himself. And maybe that's part of what the unknown is that kind of internal life as they're underwater. And you can see the temptation, what was pulling each of them down, whether they knew it or not.
Before we get to wrapping, I just do really appreciate that this kind of draws a parallel to another thing we did on the show when we did The River Has Roots. And that's cool.
Oh, yeah. There are some connections there. There's a connection with our next episode, which we can talk about in the outro. But I think that does leave the most, important question that probably both of our listeners have been screaming at their phone for the last 30 minutes, how we have not tackled this yet, which is favorite Gregism, favorite Greg quote.
I'm pretty sure you know what mine is.
Oh, I don't know what is it. I'm curious if it's the same.
Did you know that dinosaurs had big ears, but everyone forgot because dinosaur ears don't have bones? And of course,
that's a rock fact.
Wirt says, "No, yes, yeah, that's because it's not true. It's a rock fact."
Yeah, I am going to start embedding that's a rock fact into my day-to-day life. Yeah, mine was similar. It was in that school episode, which, by the way, the teacher in the school episode and her like ABC song was so lovely. And we'll hear it at the end. Thanks, even Indy, the potatoes and molasses song. That was just the most absurd. But so my theory is that hot dogs are not really dogs, regardless of what they teach you in school. I'll just roll through some others. Yeah, we already hit the old lady, young man. We're turtle rich.
Yes.
Just and just a solid like, ain't that just the way? That's that's a great catchphrase too. But yeah, Greg, you are precious. Never let anything bad happen to you.
You're so pure. Okay, I have recommended media. I don't know if this is really just like a thing that I'm just starting to do on this show, but I just consume a lot of media, and I'm always tangentially relating to things. Okay. Number one, if you enjoy this sort of very silly, but also very serious and spooky and creepy at portions kind of thing, Centaurworld was a very enjoyable watch. I discovered the show by seeing online people sharing the song about the Nowhere King in Centaurworld, which is this very creepy lullaby about the final lines of it are, "You will bring joy to the Nowhere King when he sees the light leaving your eyes."
That's good. Yeah, and that's very beast. That's very beast-like. Yeah, the beast is essentially playing off your despair, and that's how he gets his power. That's how his light stays lit. Yeah,
it's this very bubbly, very silly, very. I think really the best way for me to describe it is like very like first 20 minutes of Barbie show. Like it's very carefree, but then like it starts getting like very serious and very dark, and it keeps the carefree attitude all the way through. But I would say that, and then also I think in the first half of the show I also mentioned the serial podcast show Welcome to Night Vale. Podcast, so it's audio, but it's this story about this town in the desert. I think canonically it's set in Arizona, but it's this town where remarkable things happen, and things that are just normal are very extraordinary, like a dog park that nobody is allowed to enter or exit, things like that. The Glow Cloud, which is the head of the school board, all hail the Glow Cloud. And the episode where a carnival comes to town, and it's just a regular carnival, but nobody trusts them, and they run them out of the town. And the way that the show is set up is the narrator is the radio host. And he's just reading the goings on of what's going on in the town. Sometimes reacting to things live, or just really just giving updates. And the show is filled with cold opens. One of them, I have to bring this up because I was telling a friend about this a couple days ago. But my favorite cold open was a very point on note about the economy. Quote, "If you could press a button that would give you a great deal of money, but it would cause someone you didn't know in a distant part of the world to die, then you would have a good model for how our current economy works." Yeah, there is that. And then the preceding cold open was, "I know you are, but what am I? What am I? What am I? What am I?" And the episode after that is, "Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Tell me more about your special bird powers."
Those are all good. Those are good recommendations. Yeah, I'll go with Gravity Falls, for another animated show that gets into like the dark and mysterious you can watch with kids. for kind of a creepy book about kids thinking about the presence of evil and guilt in the way, this is much more like work centered, but the way in which like guilt can kind of consume you from the inside out. A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness is a really, really striking book. And then just generally the Decemberists in terms of vibe and like, wait, what year is this supposed to take place? I'm going to say that. Those are my recommendations.
I love it.
Okay. All right. So what are we thought we might do in October, but I'm so glad this was the perfect, like, autumnal October show. So, but we're keeping the creepy going. So what are we doing next month?
We are flipping the switch and we're letting the lightning strike, baby. It's Frankenstein time.
Yep. And there's a connection here, actually. So, Frankenstein, there's a new version that just came out, was in just a few theaters, but it's going to be on Netflix like November 7th or so, directed by Guillermo del Toro, which really, it's shocking that he hasn't made Frankenstein yet. And actually, Patrick McHale co-wrote with him his version of Pinocchio, which, was also really kind of creepy and funky and wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reread for this, the Mary Shelley, her 1831, I think it's the better version to kind of read. So yeah, feel free to read. It's only like 220 pages. It's a really cool in terms of format. And then our next episode, mid-November, we'll talk about Frankenstein. All right, Jonathan, my good friend, thank you for talking about some good and creepy art with me this month.
Yes, I enjoyed it, and hopefully next time we'll be able to go and put on the Ritz.
That ain't a rock fact. Take care.
Oh, potatoes and molasses. It's the only thing left on your task list. They're short and stout. They make everyone shout for potatoes and molasses. For potatoes and... That's enough!